I'm going to call the public meeting on a matter to require approval under the Planning Act to order. Are we okay? Yes? I'll call the public meeting to order and advise the public of the following. The public meeting is required under the Planning Act to afford any person an opportunity to make representation with respect to a proposed zoning bylaw amendment for lands known as 20 Balaclava Street. The proposal is to permit a supportive housing development consisting of 78 units within the former Balaclava School and a proposed addition. Before we begin, members of the public are advised that only specific stakeholders, including the applicant, the minister, and public bodies, or a specified person as defined by the Planning Act, and the registered owner of any land within the zoning bylaw amendment would apply. Where the bylaw amendment would apply, may appeal the council's decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Therefore, if a person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Corporation of the City of St. Thomas before the amendment is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. Those wanting to be notified of the council's decision on the application should email customer service at stthomas.ca, indicating which public meeting they wish to be notified on and provide their name and address. For those that don't have access to a computer and wish to be notified, you can call customer service at 519-631-1680, extension 0, and provide that same information. Do any of the members of council have any disclosures of interest concerning the matter on the agenda? Seeing none. Madam Clerk, what method of notice and when was the notice given to the public for this meeting?
Your Worship, notice was provided in the St. Thomas Times Journal on Friday, April the 25th, 2025, and in accordance with council policies, notice was also mailed to property owners within 120 meters of the subject property.
Okay. I'm now going to introduce our Manager of Planning Services, a debut. Excellent. Michelle Kiernan, how close did I come?
Knierim, quite close.
Knierim, okay, close. Who will provide background information on the proposal and present the draft bylaw. Please, Michelle.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we're here tonight for the public meeting for the draft zoning and bylaw amendment for 20 Balaclava Street. The subject lands are located at the southeast corner of Balaclava Street and Malkoff Street. The subject lands are occupied by the former Balaclava Public School, which is currently vacant. Lands were previously owned by the Thames Valley District School Board, then they were transferred to the city, and now they are owned by Indwell. I should note the site is designated Part 4 under the Ontario Heritage Act, and the applicant has secured the necessary heritage approvals, but of course any future development is contingent on the land use planning approvals. So the subject lands, just a little bit about the surrounding area. To the north, west, and east, you have low-rise residential uses. To the south, you have an event venue, and further south, you have commercial uses along Talbot Street. So a little bit about the proposal from the applicant. They're proposing to retain the main part of the school, that 3-story building, and they're proposing a 4-story addition, which would be 14.5 meters tall. Between the in the development, there would be 78 residential units, which they've identified as being for supportive housing, and there's 31 parking spaces proposed. So a little bit about the subject lands. So any zoning bylaw amendment needs to conform to the official plan. So the St. Thomas official plan provides land use designations across the whole city, saying essentially what sort of uses can be built where, and various other policies to help guide the future development of the lands. The subject lands are designated residential. Residential designation allows a range of low, medium, and high density residential uses, and subject to various policies about and criteria about where certain where high intensity, medium intensity, and low intensity development can be located. The subject lands are in close proximity to the Talbot East designation, and high density residential uses, such as what's proposed, are that's one of the criteria, is that they're located near parks and open space or the Talbot Central, Talbot East, or Talbot West land use designations. So a little bit about the draft zoning bylaw amendment we have before us tonight. The existing zoning for the site is third residential zone, or R3, which permits a variety of different types of residential uses, including apartments up to 4 units with heights up to 11 meters. The application we have before us tonight is for a site-specific zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the lands to 5th residential zone, or an R5, which would permit the requested 78 residential units and the requested height of 14.5 meters. They're also seeking some special provisions. So within all our zoning, in all our zones, there are some standard provisions. And sometimes based on the needs of the development, the applicant will come forward seeking some variations to those standard provisions. So in this case, they're seeking a reduction in rear yard setback to 7 meters when 9 meters would normally be permitted in the R5 zone. So that is for the south property, or the south property line by the event center. They're also seeking a reduction in minimum dwelling unit floor area for bachelor units. They're seeking 23 square meters, where 28 square meters would typically be permitted in the R5 zone. And for 1 bedrooms, they're seeking 26 square meters, where 42 square meters would typically be permitted in the R5 zone. They're also seeking a minimum parking requirement of 31 spaces, where typically 98 spaces would be required based on that unit count. So just very briefly, I'll go over the draft amendment, the contents of the draft amendment. So the draft amendment would include a special zoning map 1128, which essentially would just show the proposed zoning on the subject site. They also are proposed, it would also include the addition of text to the bylaw, just including those special provisions that I spoke about, for a minimum rear yard depth of 7 meters, minimum dwelling unit floor areas for bachelor and 1 bedrooms of 23 square meters and 26 square meters respectively, and a minimum of 31 parking spaces. You'll see here it lists the exceptions, but that's essentially just identifying those areas of the bylaw for the rear yard setback, the unit size, and the parking, where the special provisions would apply. And then also, just in anticipation of the eventual consolidation of zoning bylaw 5088, the zoning map 11 would be updated to include the proposed zone as shown here. So that concludes my presentation.
Well, thank you very much. I think I will now introduce Sylvia Harris and Harry Fruzios from Indwell, and the consultant on the property. And you'll also make a brief presentation? Great.
Escape out of that a sec. And go to the Zoom. Here, I got you. So I'm going to send you, so it'll pop up saying promote to panelist.
Okay.
Technology.
Yes. We've lost no one on a presentation yet, so.
So
Go back in Zoom. Here, open that, and then just at the bottom there. Oh, you got to move it up a little bit. Yeah, there's share,
oh, okay.
and then just share your screen or that presentation. Probably that, and then you can put it in your full. Sure. Just go. You can go into the slideshow mode, and then you'll go through like.
Perfect. Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship, members of council, staff, and to all members of the public who are here tonight, either in attendance both in person or virtually. My name is Harry Frusios. I'm a principal planner with Zelenka Priamo Limited. We are the planning consultants retained by Indwell to assist with the required planning approvals for the proposed affordable housing development at 20 Balaclava Street. Firstly, we'd like to thank staff for their efforts. There's been a strong collaboration between city staff and the Indwell team in order to bring this application forward to you at tonight's public meeting in a very timely fashion. We'd also like to thank the members of the public that attended the open house that was held on March 31st and for providing their comments throughout this process. I'll be very brief. Ms. Knierim has already provided a very thorough overview of the application. Instead, I will just focus on the land use planning merits of this application as stated in our planning justification report. And Ms. Sylvia Harris from Indwell will follow with a brief presentation as soon as I've completed mine. The application is to facilitate the redevelopment, restoration, and repurposing of the former Balaclava Street Public School at 20 Balaclava Street for an apartment building containing 78 affordable rental units within the existing building, as well as a 4-story addition replacing the existing gymnasium on the subject property. So I'll go back. So just some of the notable features of the proposal. There's no heritage defining elements that are being removed or altered as part of this development. The proposed addition is 14 meters in height, but it will still be subordinate to the original school building, which is approximately 23.4 meters in height. The parking rate that's being provided, 31 total spaces, equates to just roughly 0.4 parking spaces per dwelling unit. And the proposed apartment building will cover 33% of the total lot area. The proposed development is being undertaken by Indwell, a prominent affordable housing provider in Ontario, including within the city of St. Thomas. Through the retention and reuse of the existing institutional building, the historical and heritage significance of the property and the area is also being preserved as part of the development. And I'll quickly go through some of the slides. You've already seen some of the slides through Ms. Knierim's presentation. This is the proposed site plan showing the proposed development. The sort of the grayish tone on the right side is the footprint of the existing building, and beside it in the sort of greenish yellow tone is the proposed 4-story addition. Parking will be to the rear of the building, and then there'll be sufficient land and sufficient landscaping towards the sides and in the front to provide amenity space for the residents. These are the renderings of the proposed building. You can see on the left side of the screen is the existing institutional building. To the right is the proposed 4-story addition, and you can see that even though the proposed addition is 4 stories in height, it is not as tall in height as the existing building. And this is taken from the intersection of Malakoff and Balaclava. This view is taken from the rear of the building where the parking area is facing northwest from Balaclava Street. And then as noted, the proposed amendments include a change from the residential R3 zone to a site-specific R5 zone. That includes special provisions relating to the rear yard setback, the minimum dwelling unit size, and the minimum parking requirement. The change, oh, sorry, this is a little too fast for me. The change from the R3 to the R5 zone is consistent with the residential designation policies that apply to the subject lands, which allow for high-density residential development at appropriate locations. In our opinion, the subject lands are suitable for the proposed unit or for the proposed use based on the criteria provided for in the official plan for the city of St. Thomas, based on their location near Talbot Street and all essential services. The site has frontage along an arterial road. It provides sufficient separation and buffering from neighboring properties. It will provide sufficient landscaping and on-site amenity space for all the tenants, and municipal services are readily available. The R5 zone is an implementing zone of the residential designation and permits apartment buildings. The proposed height and density for the proposed development will be in keeping within the permissions of the R5 zone. The overall height of the proposed development will not exceed what you currently see on the property. And while the number of dwelling units is greater than what is currently permitted, the site's overall intensity is not intended to be significantly different than considering its former school and institutional use. The requested site-specific provisions are very technical in nature, but necessary to facilitate the proposed development. The proposed rear yard setback of 7 meters will not result in any unanticipated or unacceptable loss of privacy and will support the retention of existing trees located on the site. All required elements such as access and landscape buffers can be accommodated within the proposed setback. The proposed reduction in the unit sizes is required to accommodate as many people and households as possible within suitable living arrangements and accommodations. All units will be designed with adequate kitchen and bathroom facilities, as well as sufficient space for a seating area, bed, and storage. The proposed reduction in parking is supported by the accompanying transportation review that was submitted with the application. It is appropriate given the intended population of the building and Indwell's previous experience with similar developments throughout the province. Notably, the subject lands are within walking distance of commercial areas, including pharmacies, banks, and a food store. They're in close proximity to parks, schools, community centers, a library, and other facilities that will provide for the daily needs of the residents of the development. So in summary, Your Worship, members of council, the proposed amendment will also realize the goals and objectives of the provincial planning statement and the St. Thomas official plan, which encourages mixed use, residential intensification, a mix of housing types in a compact form, and the integration of heritage buildings to create a diverse and inclusive residential and mixed-use neighborhood. Approval of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment will assist the City of St. Thomas in realizing its immediate goal of providing necessary affordable housing units to individuals in a very timely manner. And now I would like to turn it over to Ms. Sylvia Harris from Indwell. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Harris?
Thank you, Harry, and thank you, Your Worship and members of council. I wanted to just provide, my name is Sylvia Harris, and I'm a development manager with Flourish, who is Indwell's development and construction managing company. I'm just here to give some background on Indwell and the context of the supporting housing program at the site. I recognize this is a zoning meeting, and that is the principles that will be decided on today, but this might preempt some questions asked by the public. So there will be 78 tenants living at the Balaclava school site, and these will be broken into 2 communities, and this follows Indwell's supportive housing model that's based on what we call knowable communities. And this assists with relational supports as well as community building and safety at the site because people are known within the building. There will be on-site support services that Indwell will offer at this location, including housing supports, food programming, which will include 1 meal a day offered to some of the tenants. And then there's also integrated health services that include medication support and some nursing services as well. On-site security will be provided in the building, and that will be staffed, and there's a location for that in the interior. In addition, we have 24/7 on-call supports for both tenant needs and facilities and maintenance. Harry did talk about the very low parking demand. I just wanted to provide further context on that. Indwell has over 1,200 units across the province and very low parking ratios. In St. Thomas, we have 60 units currently occupied, and we have 1 tenant that owns a vehicle. And we will have staffing at this building, and we anticipate there being 2 to 4 staff that will drive to the site at one time. I just wanted to make mention of our commitment to the community and in our current operations of the 2 programs that we have underway. The list here is quite significant in terms of the community partners, many of which are present in this room today, and we're very grateful for it. Also, our commitment to neighborhood engagement is genuine and long-lasting. So it started earlier this year with our open house on March 31st, and many members of the neighborhood came out and we had great discussions. We will have an open house for the neighborhood as well prior to occupancy to ensure that neighbors know what it looks like on the inside of the building, meet the support staff, have a good relationship, and then we'll have the ongoing communication if there's any issues that arise, and regular events, including barbecues, to reach out to the neighbors. So thank you again for this opportunity to speak, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Well, thank you for being here tonight with us too. Madam Clerk, have you received any written submissions on the proposed changes?
Your worship, we have received one written submission from Siskins Law Firm representing 1767158 Ontario, Inc. And in that submission, the client has concerns that the property is not in keeping with the character of the residential area, that it represents an overdevelopment of the lands, that it does not mitigate impacts on surrounding low-density residential land uses, that there is insufficient parking, that it exceeds the building height, that the number of units represents an over-intensification of the property, that the units do not meet the minimum dwelling unit floor area for either bachelor or bedroom dwelling units. That's all, your worship.
Okay. Next, I'll ask council, do you have any questions? We'll start with council. Councilor Peters.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. Few questions here. Some of them, I'm assuming this is subject to site plan control. So some of these is it site plan controlled?
Through your worship, yes, it is subject to
Okay,
site plan.
thanks. A couple things. One, I too just want to express my concern about the parking. You know, we're looking at a specific use right now, but that's not to say in 5 years' time, the economy may change, things could change, and suddenly the use of the building is going to change. So you can't suddenly retroactively put parking spaces back in. We can't make the assumption right now that everybody that's going to live there is not going to drive a car. Circumstances could change. So I wanted to express my concern about the reduction from 98 to 31 parking spaces. I'm curious to know whether any shadowing impact work has been done, because if you're talking that this is going to be 3.5 meters high, I forget the number that was specifically used. I wrote down 3.5, but I may have that wrong. You said, well, it's still below the existing elevation of the existing building, yet this is pushing it further to the west. So I'm curious to know what sort of shadowing impacts have been done for those houses on the east side of Elma Street. I will ask, even though these are probably site plan, but I think one should be, I'd like to know about loading and unloading for the property. Where is that going to be done? Is that going to be done off of Malakoff? Is that done on another side? It was hard to tell in the drawings. As well, where our designated smoking area is going to be located? Are they intended for the north side of the property or the west side of the property? Thanks, Your Worship.
Thank you. Who's got the answers?
Through you, Your Worship, yeah, I'll try to
Great.
answer some of those questions and may look for some assistance from the applicants as well.
Right.
It is subject to site plan approval. So yes, there will be a public site plan meeting probably next month at some point. And so that is happening. I'm going to have the applicant speak about parking, but if there is a future change of use there, that future use will have to assess what their parking needs are and make adjustments to the site based on that. But the evidence that we have from existing Indwell properties here is that this is sufficient parking for this subject use. Shadowing, as part of the site plan approval process, shadow studies and part of the planning application, shadow studies were completed, and there's no impacts, no greater impacts than what currently exists. Loading and unloading, that's something that'll be addressed through site plan. But my understanding is that the loading will occur from the Balaclava Street entrance, in that parking lot, but I'll let the applicants clarify that. And as far as designated smoking area, that's not something that we address through site plan. I'll let the applicants speak to that. I'm sure that's something that they control through their clients.
Please.
Thank you, through your worship. I will address the issue around parking and the long-term nature of that. So Indwell funds their housing developments through CMHC, which requires us to sign long-term affordability agreements for a minimum of 20 years. So that's, and Indwell plans on owning this property in perpetuity, although we don't know what the future will bring, but for a minimum 20 years, that's the time frame we are committed to the federal government. So I think we're confident in the 20-year timeframe that our tenants' incomes sadly are not going to change to a point where they're going to be able to afford to drive a vehicle. We also have about 1,200 units of supportive housing, and our highest parking ratio, which is in Mississauga, which is a different context than this, the highest parking ratio is 0.25. And we look to specific local contexts of who's going to live here within St. Thomas. And again, we have 60 units of housing and only one tenant drives. So the parking that's provided on site should be ample, more than ample for the tenants that are going to live there. We recognize that staff will probably be driving to the site as well. And in terms of the staffing shift schedule, we don't anticipate there being more than 4 vehicles from staff at that time. For the loading, we do anticipate it coming off of Balaclava. We would work through that through site plan, as you mentioned. And then we'll work through, all of our buildings are non-smoking, so external smoking shelters or smoking areas are very important to us, and we would be very mindful of mitigating the impacts to neighbors as well as street view, wanting to be both private but also a healthy distance from the neighboring properties.
Is that okay? You got everything? Steve? Councillor Baldwin Sands.
First, I'd like to thank Councillor Peters for bringing up the shadow impact study. I am glad that we've had that resolved, especially on the West End. My question is also on green space. There is very limited green space in that entire neighborhood, and that site has a very small footprint of green space. I just would like to hear if there's any long-term or short-term in regards to the green space that is there, and that if it will be maintained. Thank you.
Yep. Through your worship, Councillor Baldwin Sand, yes, there is limited green space provided on site, similar to what exists today, but there will be opportunities internal to the site for some recreational space. I don't have the number in front of me, but I believe 1,450 square feet, 1,450 square feet will be provided inside for some amenity space for those tenants, for amenity uses for occupants of the building. Anything to add?
Thank you, Lou, and through you, Mr. Worship. The site plan that we have right now shows a landscape coverage of 37%, which typically is a lot more than the bylaw would require. And like I said, there's going to be, through the site plan process, we'll look at a little more carefully in terms of what kind of plantings, what kind of programming there will be, but there will be, like was mentioned by Lou, that there will be both inside and outdoor amenity space for the tenants in addition to the landscaping.
Go ahead.
As I stated, that there is limited green space throughout the entire neighborhood, and the neighborhood has in the past and historically been able to use that piece of green space for enjoyment of the entire neighborhood. Is that going to be allowed to continue, or is it going to be just allowed for the tenants in the property?
I think I'll let Sylvia answer that one.
Thank you, through your worship. That's a great question. We also heard that at the open house, and then we'd be open to looking at possibilities of way we can use the green space, especially in front of the building, for the neighborhood use. So we don't have specific plans of what that looks like, but we're very open to that, including maintaining some community garden beds. So if that's of interest to the neighbors, we'd be happy to include those, as well as keeping just greenery, because we know like kids just like to run around and we like to walk our dogs, and it's a great neighborhood interaction space for both our tenants and the community that has gotten used to using the space a certain way over time since the school has closed. So again, we'd be happy to have those conversations directly with the neighbors, maybe facilitated by the city staff or the counselors, whatever you think would be best.
Okay. Further questions from council? Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a little concerns, as with Councillor Peters about some of the changes there, parking spaces and what would happen in 10 to 20 years from now. My concern is why are we downsizing the size of the bachelor apartments and the one-bedroom apartments? I mean, like I find it, you may not find it very much, but coming from a single mom who lived in a one-bedroom apartment, that's tight. I mean, that's really tight. I would rather see at least another half bedroom in for the one bedroom, like that much more space, because you know, they're coming in with maybe very little or maybe with a lot. That's not a lot of space for personal needs. I don't feel comfortable with the size designations for the housing at all. And I know you're trying to get as much housing in and it's necessary, but I think with everything that's going on in our community, I think that we could certainly look at maybe enlarging some of these units and just to make it a little more comfortable. Thank you.
Mr. Pompili?
Yeah, through your worship, I'll start. Great questions and things that have been considered. The other two projects run by Indwell had to receive similar approvals to reduce the size that we have in our current bylaw for the minimum unit size for bachelors and one bedrooms. And this is a continuation of that. That model has worked, and they're confident that it's going to work here. And they know their clients. So I'll let.
Through your worship, just adding on to that, thank you for your question, and I really appreciate the concern around the tenant livability of our units, and that's something we share with you, and we take quite pride in our unit design. So we work on that and get tenant feedback throughout all of our building processes when we open a new building, making sure folks feel like their experience living in our units is used for the next building that we design and develop. So we have renovated a number of heritage buildings, and those always present a unique challenge of how to maintain the heritage integrity of the space and then also integrating housing units. So actually some of the units in the Balaclava School are larger than we typically have, because that's the way the floor layout worked with the units and the structure and such. I took the pictures of our units actually out of my presentation. So livability is huge in our unit design. Efficiency is huge. So circulation and flow. So although if you look at it just from a square footage basis, it seems like a low amount. The way the unit flow works really well for people, and having the storage in the right spaces and the right kinds of storage is really important, and we find that it works well for people. And these are bachelors and one bedrooms. So we're working with the City of St. Thomas on the coordinated access. And so most of these folks will be single people living here without children for the most part. There might be an occasional a situation where there's a young child on a short-term basis, but we're designing for single people only.
Go.
And just one other question. Are you going to have any units available for accessibility? Anyone with large wheelchairs, electric?
Yes, through your worship. So at least 20% of the units will be accessible. That's also a requirement for our CMHC funding. And mobility scooters are a big component in the livability for accessible units. So we didn't speak to this, but there are indoor bike storage rooms for our tenants that use those bicycles, as well as in those rooms, there'll be charging stations for mobility scooters to be able to charge those in a safe and secure environment, not outside or in their units.
Okay. Further questions from council? Seeing none at the moment, please jump on by putting your hand up at any time. We'll now open the meeting to questions from the public, and for those attending who have not already submitted their concerns or comments to the city. If you're here at City Hall, you'll need to proceed down to level 3 of the council chambers, and we'll admit you one at a time to the podium to ask your question or to submit a concern at the podium. Staff are available to assist in helping you or directing you to that location. You may then return to your original seat in the gallery. If you're listening on your computer, tablet, or smartphone, please click the raised hand icon. And if you have called into the meeting using a telephone, dial *9, and questions will be taken in that order, the order in which you come in. And when the opportunity to speak comes to you, either at the podium or on phone or online, please provide your name and address for the city's clerk. So we'll go ahead and start with anyone from the public with a comment. So if there's anyone online who'd like to have a comment, please use your raised hand feature. And I saw a few coming down, so we'll give them a minute to come down to the podium and we'll take their questions at the podium. In the meantime, council, don't be shy. If you have further questions, raise your hands. All right. Good evening.
Your worship, members of council, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I'm not nearly as prepared as I would like to be, but I will try to ask a couple questions and then make a few comments. I think what I would first like to ask about is the comments that were made about the staff that will be on.
I need to stop you.
Yes.
Name and address first.
So sorry.
It's okay. I just want to know who you are. No.
I've never done this before, can you tell?
Oh, wait, that's okay. We're all pretty bad at it. So go ahead.
I'm Elizabeth Anderson. I live at 99 Kane Street.
Excellent.
Thank you, sorry. So my first question, I guess, is about the staffing support that was mentioned. And I guess I'd like a little bit more detail as to what that would look like, if it's 24-hour staff. And I know you mentioned some different types of staff there, nutrition and that sort of thing. Because there was a comment that was made by the program's manager of Indwell, I'm not going to say her name right, Jessica Mostert Thiessen, in the London Free Press, August 18th, 2023. So this was a story that was running about the project that opened at 16 Queen Street. And then she was beginning to talk about the next stage, the third project that would be developed, which would be Balaclava School, I'm assuming. And so what she said was the intention of that project will be a standard support apartment. That's where individuals are very independent. They would just benefit from a very present and active landlord. And so that is my concern, is that at that time, the program manager was stating there would only be an active landlord. So I guess I would like that assurance that there will be a lot more support than that. And I guess another question is, this was labeled as a stage 3 development, whereas stage 1 and stage 2 are further downtown. And this would be a stage 3, where they live in this dwelling until they can truly launch out on their own and be fully independent and basically answer to no one, become functioning members of society, which would be fantastic. Right. That would be, that's what we're looking for. So is that still the plan? Is that where they, stage 3, they've moved on from stage 1 and stage 2, and they've been approved to go into stage 3, and then they meet certain requirements which allow them to be fully independent and functioning members of society. Okay. And I guess the last thing I want to say is I can appreciate the need for this housing, but I can't help but feel that the Balaclava School is also a missed opportunity for St. Thomas and that specific neighborhood. It is a beautiful building, and I am grateful that they will be maintaining the historical building itself, that nothing will change, because it's just a beautiful building. But I feel like it also really could have benefited the local community and all the taxpayers and be a community center. A place where there could have been exercise classes, art classes, a performance center, even an outdoor patio with live music, just a place where the neighborhood and people from outside the neighborhood can come and really use that building for a community purpose. I mean, really, the ideas are endless. And so I'm sad to see that that is not happening. I can't also, and I forgive my ignorance, please, maybe I am just being ignorant, but I can't help but feel that maybe there was another place where Indwell could have purchased and developed stage 3, maybe closer to Walmart or that area. So it's further away from stage 1 and 2. So they're further away from the company that they would keep or had kept, and truly moving on with their life, separating them even more physically from stages 1 and 2, where they are still in an area where they could have accessed all of the amenities at that part of town, but have further distance. And then Balaclava School could have been used for the community. So I don't want to take up too much time. Thank you.
Great. Who's going to help answer those questions? You can sit and listen to those and then go back up. Go ahead.
Through your worship, thank you for those questions. Just trying to hit them all. So in terms of the staffing, the exact ratio is still to be determined. We're in development of that staffing model. It's part of our operational budget that needs to get funded through the Ministry of Health. We are also working closely with the City of St. Thomas on the housing need and the need of individuals who would be living there. So that really impacts the kind of staffing that we would have in the building and the roles that they would have, although Indwell has a basis of supportive housing roles that work really well in all of our programs. So the commitment to being a present landlord is strong, it's real, it's currently exists at our other 2 buildings. That would continue here as well. On-site security is built into the budget, and that will be guaranteed to provide that assurance that maybe the community would also like, as well as that 24/7 on-call support. So that will be for people to come in if that's required, facilities or housing support, whatever the need is at any time in the day or night. So the stage 3, I know people have been using that. That's not a term that Indwell uses. We use standard supports or enhanced supports. So this is part of our housing spectrum that the neighbor might be referring to. And so that the idea is true that the folks living at Railway City Lofts have more intensive needs. There are less needs at Queen Street, and there will be less needs at Balaclava within the mixed community that we have. And ideally, folks are able to stabilize and move on to other living options. However, affordability is the anchor of Indwell's housing model. And a lot of folks still require that affordability, even if their mental health and well-being improves. And so we're committed that to the long term. And as long as folks need that, we're happy to provide housing for them. And I'll let the city speak to the missed opportunity, because I know we work together very closely on the location.
Well, I'll thank you, and I'll take a shot at it. We take anything we can find that we can help afford affordable housing, and in this case, supportive housing. While we still have anyone who is unhoused in our community, it's been a #1 priority of this council to address it first. That doesn't mean we can't multitask and do other things like community centers or pathways and other things we do well in this community. But as the mayor of the community, and I know the council would speak with me, while we have still anyone who is living without a house or without a home in our community, that's our kind of #1 priority to move forward on. Indwell has been fantastic at helping us do it, and we know in their products, Indwell has done a great job of maintaining heritage buildings and converting them to that use. And the proximity, as was mentioned in the original opening comments, of how close we are to pharmacies and grocery stores and other things from that site, but also from the Queen Street site and also from the Rail City Loft site. Great. There's a pretty good distance between the Queen Street site and the Balaclava site. So I kind of suggest that we are separating But there's a different job and a different measure of homelessness that we're attracting or attacking. And we will continue to do that. We kind of say that's in our mind a little bit of priority one. And we'll continue to do the other great things we've been doing in this community. But if we still have people who are unhoused, we're going to work on that as kind of a priority one.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. Please
My
state
name-
your name and address. Great, perfect.
My name is Traveen Chobagi, and I
Okay.
live across the street at 25.5 Balaclava Street.
Great.
I would just like to comment that I live across the street, and I've called and asked for several information and questions in regards to this. And I have little to no answers I've been given back. I would like to see a little more transparency to the people around
Have
on
you
it.
called our customer service system or who were you reaching out
Yes,
to?
I did. And I was met up with a receptionist who said that the person, she couldn't answer any questions and
Right.
she couldn't direct me to somebody that could, because the person on
Okay.
the memo that we were sent was transferred somewhere else and unable to answer them. And they had no idea who to connect me to.
So was it an Indwell or a City of St. Thomas
It was
customer
the
service?
city of St. Thomas. It
Okay.
was the 1-800 number on the memo we were given about the meeting today.
Okay.
It said any
Okay, that being said,
concerns?
I'll check into customer service to find out why that's the case. We've been getting nothing but great comments from people who've been reached out to at our
They
customer
requested
service.
they said they could send an email with many answers, questions, layouts as to what the
Right.
intentions were. And we'd never received it.
Well, I apologize for you
So-
not receiving it, but we'll make sure we have your name and address now and give you everything you need. And we'll let you ask any of those same questions here tonight to get answers.
So just to answer the once and for all question I do have for it is, what is the true intention? Is this for open tenants, like anybody can rent a 1-bedroom apartment?
No?
So
We will be placing and assigning apartments currently to people on our homelessness list or from our other housing spots to that site. But I don't think we're going to have enough to be able then to offer any from an affordability point of view to the general public.
Because I have many concerns. When the adult school was operating across the street,
Right?
many of the tenants up and down and around the immediate area had problems with people parking in their driveways,
Mhm.
which caused not only inconveniences, but altercations in some cases. People were complaining up and down the street about just generally just it being very tight for parking onto it to accommodate it. And that was with a school.
Right.
And that was, even though these tenants you say don't have vehicles, have we ever thought about visitors, family members that are going to be visiting them? They are going to need parking.
Oh, there is some
So
parking
there
on the
is
site.
going to be that again. If a school was not able to properly accommodate parking, how is this large complex going to do it? And as for the 27 available assistants, we've all come into play, and I'm very wary of that giving the assurance that we need so that our community, even being a small little area, will keep the security, tranquility, peace that we have all come accustomed to.
Great.
Many of us cherish and relish this. I myself do. And I do not want to see that be altered. And that is my concern on it. Along with the transparency, this is the first I'm hearing of almost anything in this idea. And I have called City Council or City Hall and asked about it.
Did you attend?
And I've
did you
tried
attend the
doing
open
Google
house?
searches, and they're very vague, and they don't post what they do.
Right. Did you attend the open house? Were you informed of the open house?
No,
Okay.
I don't follow the St. Thomas Journal newspaper.
Right.
I do go online and I never hit it. We were never informed door to door. There was never anything delivered to us
Okay.
across the street to tell us about any of these. I honestly thought it was opening up the school at
Okay.
first.
Well, again, I can only apologize the once that our customer service people let that drop, but I know of people who went door to door handing out postcards for the open house. We know we're here tonight, so we're trying to answer all the questions you have.
Because like I said, I'm very concerned about the peacefulness. I do not want something like this to it's a big building, a lot of occupants.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to destroy what we have in this small little community.
Mhm.
We moved from London to St. Thomas.
Right.
Have a quiet, nicer, 25% better.
Yep.
Just like the slogan says. And just like anybody else up and down that street and in St. Thomas, I'd like that opportunity just as much as any business.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next. There we go. Hello, if you
Hello.
can state your name and address and then any questions or concerns you have.
Karen Huggett, 40 Balaclava Street.
Okay.
I wasn't going to speak tonight, but I felt that I really did need to come here and speak because, and I guess I'm not addressing you properly, Your Worship and Council.
Oh,
Thank you for letting me
okay.
have this time. It was very frustrating to find out the way we did about the proposed changes to our beautiful neighborhood.
Mhm.
Yes, we live, north of Talbot Street, and it's not supposedly the best area of town, but it's ours and we love it. And it's changed a lot over the years. We've been there since 1998. So finding out with the news release and finding out that some of us got postcards inviting us to the open house that we expected to go to and sit there and have a presentation and ask questions, not how it rolled out. We were divided into little groups. There was tons of Indwell people there. When we compared notes at the end of it, we got all sorts of different answers from the Indwell people. So we're still very lost as to what is being actually proposed in our neighborhood. Our neighborhood is, lots of aging like us, seniors that have been there forever, and there's lots of actually new young people that are moving into the neighborhood. I've talked to people all around the entire neighborhood, and I haven't met anyone yet that's not severely upset by the proposal to the changes of Balaclava School and to our neighborhood. They're outraged. The long-term tax-paying people like me or any property owners were super concerned about our property values going down with having basically a homeless shelter erected in our neighborhood. We've read and researched Indwell, and we're horrified, absolutely horrified by what we have found out about them in their other facilities, constant police presence, drug use, prostitution, murders, all sorts of stuff like that. And we don't want that in our neighborhood. Would you want that in your neighborhood? Like, truly, would you want that in your neighborhood? 67, I was reading an article, 67% of Indwell residents do not feel safe living in Indwell properties. So how is that going to spill over into our neighborhood? What's going to happen when there's a lot more people in the drug culture in our neighborhood and coming to Indwell properties because their friends live there? Who's going to monitor that? Who's going to pay if there's increased crime or there's damage to my property or my neighbor's property? Who's paying for that? Who do I send the bill to? Right? You can't, like, it just seems like there was a lovely presentation by Indwell to the city and to other cities, and that there wasn't the research done about the impact of putting together people that are vulnerable and people that are drug addicted in the same model over and over again. It hasn't worked. And it is concerning. Like, how many in the Queen Street location, how many seniors are there? Seniors, they can't afford. Nobody can afford the rents and stuff nowadays, but seniors particularly can't. So how many seniors, like a lot of the people that I've talked to would be happy to have that property turned into something for, you know, seniors and the vulnerable people that absolutely, you know, end up in homelessness or living in someone's basement because they can't afford a place of their own. But when you bring the drug population into it, that is where, you know, all of us have a huge problem. And I think we have every right to have that problem. And according to one of your council members that I did speak with, the registered homeless in St. Thomas is around 55, I believe. So why on earth are there that many units? Are there people being brought in from other municipalities? Is that what's going on? Or is it just those people in St. Thomas? And really, truly, like, we were told about 5 different things about the supports in that facility. Is there going to be like constant monitoring and supports in the facility or not? Because we've heard about 5 different things from just people there on staff if somebody needs you, or I was told by, can't remember her name, the one lady that was running the show, there's going to be 12 people on site. So, you know, we don't know. We feel very, very dark about this whole situation and very afraid and we feel vulnerable as to how this is going to impact our neighborhood. And we're not getting the answers that we deserve.
What answer would you like? Ask a question. I'll try my best. I've visited each of the other Indwell sites in our community, and I'm very pleased with the amount of on-site supports and what's being offered, and the advancement, the movement of people who are going from unhoused through the system and into being housed on their own at the other end of this. But as a member of council here, I'm with you. I don't want there to be people who are unhoused in our community. I want homelessness to disappear in our community, as this council has also suggested. And that's exactly what we're attempting to do, using a great partner like Indwell has shown us in our community how well they can run facilities of different size and types, and how well that allows people to move on into a better life.
So who, sir, has the statistics on that? Because I've talked to people personally that live in Indwell properties, and they're not, after 6-8 months, things aren't any better for them in their addictions and their fear. You know, they're living in a glorified homeless shelter with a room with a lock on the door, with less rules than a homeless shelter does, because they can show up drunk, they can show up stoned, they can have their friends over, they can do whatever. You can't do that in a homeless shelter.
Well,
right? You can't. There are rules.
There
And
are-
this,
there
because
are
these are their
differences between a
homes,
homeless
there's no
shelter.
rules.
Right. Well, and in your home, you have your own rules you may follow too. But the intent here is to remove homelessness from our streets, from the city of St. Thomas. And it doesn't start with something greater than the housing we're being able to allow to give, to afford. To answer one of your other questions, no, we're not bringing people from other communities, and we prove that to ourselves almost every day.
Okay.
At our other housing units, and of course, even at our shelter, the Inn. We verify who's new to town and where they might have come from, and we place a great deal of effort on returning them to their home communities where there's better supports for them. So that's to answer that question. It's a bit of an urban myth that we get hit with a lot. So that is not the case. But giving someone just 4 walls isn't enough either. And so what we're suggesting is, by putting in supportive housing where there's on-site support, whether it's mental health or peer support or even addiction support. And we know that through the Minister of Health, we're trying to put more rehab and detox centers in every community, and we sure could use a bunch more of those too. But while we can, we'll house people. While we can, we'll put numbers, hundreds through the current detox and rehab centers we have, and hope for an end of the day when we have no homelessness and we have no addictions. But I may be tilting at windmills a little bit, but I think we have to start with saying housing is the most important human right we can offer, and this is what we're trying to do.
So do the vulnerable in our community not deserve to not be housed with people that are addicted and have drug dealer friends and that sort of stuff? And all of the things that we're finding out about Indwell properties and that combination?
I don't know what you're finding out about Indwell properties.
I'm
I've
happy to send you some articles from Hamilton.
I've read
and
a
from-
bunch of articles, but none of them are from
Yeah.
St. Thomas. Many of them are, I've visited all our facilities here and I feel pretty comfortable with what we're doing with Indwell. And I get that. There'll be a reason to see other communities in a different way. I get it. And I honestly will say that council and I have read those reports too. We've asked Indwell to come and discuss them with us. We feel comfortable that this step we're making with Indwell on the third building here, that will take us at least a good way through homelessness in our community, is the great next step. But we want to make sure you feel safe about it too, and we answer those questions.
Okay, so then when I'm not feeling safe about it and my neighbors aren't feeling safe about it and there is increased crime and there is cleaning up needles from our sidewalks and there is property damage, then who do we talk to?
Well, certainly the people at Indwell will be the first you'll want to talk to. We have a community policing system in our community that is visible in the downtown and will be visible at Balaclava also. And there would be some great people to get to be your friends and to talk to, and they would be able to hand you off to whoever you might next need to see. But I'll put our community policing efforts against any other city in Southern Ontario as a added addition to be able to address homelessness and safety of communities.
Can I ask one final question? Would you want a facility that is going in my neighborhood in your neighborhood?
Sure.
You would?
Yeah.
So it really doesn't matter, right? It was a done deal before we came here tonight.
Not at all. This is a zoning meeting and we'll certainly talk about the zoning that goes with it and the needs of our community, as a whole. Hi,
Hello,
name and address, please.
my name's Linda Stafford. I live at 15 Malakoff.
15 Malaclough.
I live like 200 feet from the side entrance of the boys' side.
Okay,
I apologize now, I haven't heard the question, so if I ask the same question, I apologize.
please do. It's okay.
I've lived on Malakoff Street for 55 years. I've seen a lot of things on that street. We cared for a lot of things from the school. We looked after that school, mainly my husband and I. We watch over it. We see the druggies go over there shooting up all the time. We've called the police to say this or stealing this or breaking windows or breaking doors. But I was hoping when this building was sold, it would go to like the seniors, like a stage 1, stage 2 or whatever, or even for the mothers with single children. But I was told it's for the homeless, which is good. But my question is any of these people on drugs that are going into these apartments? I'm not talking marijuana and I'm not talking prescription drugs. I'm talking other drugs. Because our street right now has a drug problem on it. And it has been for years. We don't need more drugs into our neighborhood. And as I'm looking out my window now, looking at this new building, it's going to be nothing but a cement wall in front of me because it's going to be way over my house. So that's my view now of St. Thomas. And my husband and myself would like to know, will our house be depreciated in our value? Like who's going to buy a house right beside a homeless shelter?
This is housing for people who currently are homeless. You're absolutely right. But this is housing that St. Thomas is providing. So
Okay, can I ask you on your next housing project,
Yes.
Would you put one in Shaw Valley, Orchard Park, or Lyndhurst?
Well, as we've
I'm just asking because somehow it's in our neighborhood. I would like to know if it's going to be in anybody else's neighborhood.
well, we
It's
could,
got a $600,000 house. I'm just asking.
yeah, well, we continue to provide housing across the community, but from a supportive housing point of view, as we've been working with
I
Indwell.
bet you the people in Shaw Valley and that would not appreciate that.
Okay, well, you don't want my answer, so it's okay.
And like Margaret too, they wouldn't. They would not. And I'm just saying, you got 78 apartments there. I don't know how many dogs, cats, or whatever, but they all got to do their business.
Mhm.
And that lot that is on it is not going to be well taken care of, 78 dogs or whatever, even 50 dogs.
Okay,
So
I don't know the pet number.
I'm just saying, right? Does anybody know though if people in these apartments will be on drugs or they have to go to a staging first before they get in there? I'm just worried about drugs.
Well, as you mentioned, there already is people addicted to drugs on your street. And almost any housing unit in St. Thomas or apartment building would have some element of that to it. This is a group, a fantastic group that also works with addictions and mental health to try and move people off drugs and through their mental health
I know
program.
about mental health because I have a daughter with mental health. I have nothing wrong with mental health. I have a problem with people doing harder drugs than pot and
Okay.
prescription drugs.
Okay.
That's my problem. Because the White House on the corner was nothing but a crack house years ago. They pulled like, I don't know how many bicycles, over 500 bikes out of that house. A girl died in that house. I watched them pull her out. So that's my biggest concern. All right, I have stuff taken off my lawn now, people stealing it, so I can just imagine.
Mhm.
So I'm just wondering if somebody can answer my question on the drug problem.
I think we can be assured that there will be people that
Do you
also.
do a program or anything before? So they're still going in using drugs.
Yes, they are. I'll answer that question. Thank you, through your worship. Yes, to the question around addictions and drug use, as you were mentioning, in any apartment building, there is always going to be some of that. The supports that we will have on site will be for addictions if that's required. But because we have the system that we have of supportive housing with Railway City Lofts, Queen Street, and now Balaclava, we are gearing this housing program to be for people who are stabilized in their mental health and not as active in addiction as the other two programs where we're, as you know, people are coming direct from homelessness.
Right.
So there is a more stability there. And in terms of any issues around theft or concerns around the property, the way it looks, anything that is concerning, our staff are always open and happy to give my name and email address. And we also have some staff here as well that you can get their information as well for further questions in the future.
Great. Do I have a couple hands up online? Okay, we'll do this and then we'll do a couple offline. Hello,
Hello,
can I get your
Sorry, I'm
name and
here.
address, please?
Amanda Lucas. I'm at 55 Balaclava,
Thank you.
and I'm a single parent of a 12-year-old boy
Hmm.
who has many friends in this area. Forgive me, I'm quite nervous. I know that it's your hope and your wish and you make it sound like it's going to be stage 1, stage 2. And by the way, the stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 was given to us by Indeed at the last meeting. So that's why we're using this term. But they notified to us that after stage 1 and stage 2, stage 3 is more of like what you said. It's supposed to be geared for people that are moving on with their lives, which is great. But I have constable friends in this area that go to stage 1 and stage 2, and they have not noticed not one difference between stage 1 and stage 2. There's still tons of drug issues. There's still a lot of maybe physical fighting and stuff like that, that they haven't noticed a difference between stage 1 and stage 2. So why would you open stage 3 in an area where there's 2 public schools with so many children around that area? That's my main concern. My second, I guess that's a concern, but my comment is, or question is that you've already purchased this property. So it kind of feels like this is maybe pointless if it's already been bought by Indeed and they're
Indwell.
Indwell, and they have a whole floor plan built up and everything. So it kind of seems like this might be a little bit pointless if this is just going to move forward anyways. They have everything set into place. So I'm just a little worried about that. And another red flag for me is that if it's a third stage where people are kind of moving on and they're getting on with their lives, I understand that. Why would you need, it's a little red flag for me, why would you need 24-hour security, 24-hour nursing, and people are able to come there at all hours of the night? That's an issue for me, or a question I would like answered, because that's kind of a red flag. Why would you need 24-hour security if it's...
I can't speak for Indwell, but I
Yep,
say it's
yep.
because they're trying to be a great neighbor. And that's why they want to put the security on site and the
Right.
distance on site.
Right. So I think that's all I have. So main thing is the 20-year minimum. I know you said that. So if you've already purchased the building, then will it be used for either this or one other project of yours? If this doesn't go through, I don't know. If this is already set in stone, it seems like that to me, not set in stone, but if they purchase the building, then it seems like this is kind of a little bit pointless.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to one of our online questions next. So I see a hand up under Amanda Costa. And if you could please unmute yourself. When you're unmuted, let us know so we can hear you.
Hello?
Okay, great. So now can I get your name and address, please?
Sure, Amanda Costa, 57 Balaclava Street.
Super. And your questions or comments for us tonight?
Yep, thank you, Your Worship and Council, for the opportunity. I definitely mirror a lot of questions and concerns that have already been addressed by the community. But I do have another question, and I apologize if it has briefly been discussed. But some context for me, I have 2 young children in the neighborhood, so I do have great concerns about security, crime prevention, as well as the impact on our property values as tax-paying citizens of the city of St. Thomas. Now, being that being that the Balaclava Street is in close proximity to the other stages and the other projects, with the proximity may come things like loitering and lingering outside of the property. So I would really like to know what measures would be taken to control or mitigate that risk. Whether that's temporarily outside, that's one thing, but there could be some squatting or some, and for lack of a better word, I apologize, but you know, I would hate to see any temporary encampments just to be in close proximity with other members that are in different stages. So I'm just wondering what kind of measures are being taken to support that. I understand 24/7 security, but what does that look like?
Well, I'll try and give the first bit to it. The reason we're being involved with a great group like Indwell is to prevent encampments. And one of the things St. Thomas has been able to move very much forward on is, even though we still have an emergency shelter and there are still homeless in our community, we're trying to lower those numbers so we no longer see the type of encampment that would be at a vacant building or elsewhere in town. We have an excellent protocol to move people who are currently in encampments into some of our other services and facilities. But the more we can have Indwell help, then the greater number of homeless can become housed in our community and start their path towards that type of life with housing, and then any other supports that they're needed. So I guess, I mean, that's the best I can offer you, is that because we do projects like this with Indwell, we see less and less of the encampments or the street camping, and more of people that actually have housing and have services to help them with any issues they may be facing. Please help.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. I think my concern is just if there are people who are already in stage 3 and in the temporary housing, if they have friends or other members in the community that are in the other stages that come for visits, or, you know, I'm just wondering, given the proximity, again, I hate to, you know, sound ignorant or anything, or come across, but sometimes with that proximity to the other stages might come that other loitering and lingering from other members who aren't at stage 3. So I'm just wondering temporarily, if there were to be, you know, some encampment on the outer part of the property, what measures would be taken to ensure that that doesn't happen?
Well, as I shared, we have a great protocol in place as we find encampments in our community to discuss one-on-one with the people, using our community service officers, our community policing, and certainly people from our Canadian Mental Health and even from Indwell itself, in moving them on to a right spot, and a housing that is available, even if it's our emergency shelter to start with. We'd love to get to a point in our community where we've eliminated homelessness and no longer need an emergency shelter or anyone who is living on our streets. And we are moving pretty strongly in that direction, and really want to make sure that happens. I would guess that the staff at any Indwell building and or the security there also would notice if someone was attempting to encamp on one of their properties, and would click the protocol into place to move that on. I'll take your answer.
Yes, that's correct, Your Worship. Thank you for getting us started on that. If there was somebody that was unhoused that was seeking housing at our building, either inside or outside, our staff would be aware of that and work towards activating the protocols that are already in place, and getting services for that individual that require it. Again, as we've made mention, that this is long-term housing and not a shelter, and so that's where the difference would be. I just also wanted to make mention of the outside of the building and how that gets programmed, and how that might be different than what people are imagining. So when people have their own housing unit, they're able to stay in that unit. There's a place for them to be, versus a shelter where they may be required to leave during certain hours of the day. People can be in their house doing whatever they want to do, like the rest of us do in our own homes, as well as the interior communal space that's available and accessible to tenants at many hours of the day. It's not like a condo building where you have to put reservation down or pay a deposit. This is a design, these spaces are designed to build community. And we do hope that tenants are able to utilize the exterior of the building, because it is quite beautiful. The green space is quite beautiful, and we will design it to be programmed so people can sit outside and enjoy it, but it won't be a loitering where people are hanging out, not anywhere to go, that this is their home and they will be able to enjoy it like we enjoy ours.
Super, thank you. Next up on my online list is Rebecca Cardy. If you could unmute yourself and let us know when we can hear you. And then, okay, Rebecca, I see you're coming. Unmute. Yes, you should be unmuted now. Say hi to us.
Do you hear me?
I can, Rebecca.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Cardy. I live at 34 Alma Street.
Super. And could you give us your comments or questions tonight?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me, Rebecca? Because we heard you fine.
Perfect. Thank you very much, sir. I applaud you guys for wanting to have security 24/7. That's all well and good on that property. What's going to happen to the people that don't live on that property? Are we going to be expecting a larger police presence? And if so, how is that going to work?
Well, people who don't live on that property, we already have in place community policing and our street teams that deal with people on either at our emergency shelter or in other places in the downtown of the community. Balaclava will of course become another part of the community where our community policing comes to play and gets to know most of the people. As I've visited the other two Indwell buildings in town, our community policing services are there often and know the tenants as friends and residents. And when they also see them on the street, they know who is staying where. So I'm hoping the same thing occurs in this building.
Oh, please forgive me, but I know on my street alone, there are 4 children with autism, 2 of which are runners. With this going in, and like the lady before me said, it seems like it's a done deal.
I'm not sure I understood your question. You're a bit muffled and I'm not getting it. Did somebody else got it? I have a real hearing issue, but I'm wearing my headset tonight so I could get it. Try again, Rebecca. Give me the question again.
There are at least 4 children on my street.
Okay.
2 of which are runners. Who's going to guarantee their safety when this goes in? Like, it's apparently already a done deal, like the lady before me said. I'm very fearful for these children. How are you going to protect them?
I understand your concerns, and as a parent, I always had the same thing with my children too. We're suggesting a unit of apartment dwelling for current people who are currently homeless. I don't think that changes other than that they would finally have a home and be able to attract.
People having their own home, having a roof over their head. What I do begrudge them is the drunkies, the everything else that goes along with it, and the possible extra police presence on our street and the safety of our children.
Well, our special constables downtown are walking patrols, so I don't think it'll be a hugely intrusive amount of extra police, but we find it works very well. Our downtown merchants say the same thing. They're happy to have the community policing on patrol and have the ability to make friends with them and reach out. Do you have any other questions or comments, Rebecca?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go to somebody else in the hall, a couple more, and then I see I have Doug Butler on with his hand up, and we'll get to Doug in right after we're done the next 2 from inside. Hello?
Hello, good evening, everybody. Mary Trahan. I live at 51 Balaclava Street.
Okay.
I know that this has been brought up a couple of times already. First off, I want to say that I do understand what Indwell is doing. I think there is a need for that. However, I don't think it needs to be in my neighborhood or our neighborhood. There are plenty of other places in this town that could have gone. And I would like to know why these other locations were not even thought of, considered, or turned down. So years ago, you moved the health unit out on to Talbot Street East. Yep. Out there, what do we have? We have a bowling alley, we have a Tim Hortons. A block and a half away, we have them all, the Elgin Center. Also out by there is land available. Why did we not choose to build out there as opposed to destroying or tearing down part of the other building and ruining what we have in our community now and leaving that historic building? I know you said that historic part is not being touched, right, but I agree. It could be used as a community center. You took down Northside Arena. There's a lot of things that have been cut back in our area. You took out a playground over there as well. The closest thing to this area for a playground is the Lions Park on Hughes Street. Why are we not doing anything there? There's other locations. You've got that big dump of dirt right across from the Joe Thornton community. Why would we want people coming in from out of town when we use that Joe Thornton arena for the home show? We use it for activities, lots of hockey games. And yet when these people come in from town, what do they see? A lump of dirt. How nice is that? We could put it right there. It's right by the police station. That would be 24/7 monitoring, which I do believe we are not going to get. I do not believe that there's going to be the police presence that we need already since this was brought forward. And I am not the only neighbor or resident in this area that will say this. There has been more vagrancy and homelessness and drug deals. The police are down at the corner every day. I don't want more of that in my neighborhood. I have lived in that home since 2002. We are looking at third generation people in the neighborhood now. There are new people coming in the neighborhood with children. That's not something that I want. I won't even have my grandchildren. I don't want them around there. I love my home, but no way do I want it there. Who's going to come pick up all the needles that I find on my front lawn or my neighbor's lawn? Do I have to do it? Wait, we have that one anonymous Mr. Nash who picks them up. Yeah. And he's not paid. No, he's not.
He's not.
So I really want to know why we chose this location. What makes you think it is the best location out of all the ones in town? You still also have the corner of Ross and Talbot. That's been sitting empty for years. That's just an eyesore. What are we going to do with that? You tell me that you tell us it's, and Indwell, I'm sorry, you guys told us at that open house, stage 3. This is stage 3 or tier 3 for them getting better. Again, they still have their friends. Somebody else made a very valid point. Move it further away. They're further away from the people. They're further away from what they can get their hands on. They do not need to be in our neighborhood. I am concerned of the theft, the crime, the needles, the vagrancy, the loitering. None of it needs to be in our neighborhood. I don't think that this is the right decision. My property value is going to go down, but you can bet assure my property taxes are going to go up. That's all.
Thank you very much. Pardon? You want an answer on the lands? We don't own those other lands. It was a struggle for us to even purchase from the school board what we have. We have private developers in our community that own some of that land. It's not city property or we'd be building on it right now. If it was available, trust me, we just had a council meeting tonight where we talked about what land is still available for us to purchase and to put more housing on. We're not done. We'll carry on. Okay, but we can't get a record if you're standing at the door.
You want to increase the downtown.
Yes.
You want to bring more people to the downtown.
Yes.
When you drive downtown,
Yes.
you're seeing windows and doors boarded up. Why? Because the store owners can't afford to keep replacing the glass. And their insurance just keeps going up. Like, are you going to replace my windows when they break my windows? Are you going to do, repair my car when it's vandalized? Who is going to protect the citizens and the residents of the community?
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
My name's Ron Charlton. I live at 50 Balaclava Street.
Thanks, Ron.
I just have one statement and a question. The statement is, emailed the city planners to ask more information on this. I did not receive a reply, so I just want to note that.
Okay.
We didn't get anything back. The second, which is an actual question, is what are the people in this room going to do to guarantee the safety of our neighborhood when this goes down? St. Thomas, Talbot Street is an embarrassment. We can't walk down there at night. Everybody in the neighborhood that I've spoken to is terrified this is what's going to happen. We're not going to be able to walk in our neighborhood at night because of all the zombies walking around. What can you guys do to assure us that this isn't going to turn into in and out of the cold, or by the bus stop, or just down here? Like, you could look out the window right now. There's a group of people out there that they're zombies. What guarantees can you do for us?
Well, the first guarantee we have is we're going to try and house them. We're going to give them
I understand
the first step
the
towards.
housing is fine, but if you're not going to guarantee our safety, yeah, it's fine and dandy for you guys to sit here and say, oh, we're going to house them. But when you're not giving any guarantees to us that it's not going to turn into Talbot Street. Like, if I was city council here, I would be embarrassed by Talbot Street. I have family that come in from London, and they're like, why is St. Thomas so bad? Like, London is bad. It's just as bad here. This is a small town. So what guarantees can you give us that Balaclava Street area is not going to turn into that? Indwell said to us in the meeting that they are not policing drug use. They don't care about it. It doesn't matter.
Well,
so can you give us some assurances? Because we know this is getting rammed down our throats. So you guys got to do something.
Well, we'll continue to give the assurances that we've taken steps beyond most other communities in a community policing effort, including the core of our city and the downtown. The downtown that is fuller now than it's been in any time in 30 years from merchants and stores. It is growing back. Is it perfect yet? No, none of us would say it was, but I will finish. But we've put in place community policing as an effort, an on-the-ground policing of the neighborhood, and we're including Balaclava in that as part of the what will happen as we move housing there also. I can't make guarantees. I don't think you could find anybody that could.
Is there a plan in place that if things get so out of hand, are you going to close them? Or what are you going to do? Are you just going to let us wallow in it? Like, honestly, like, have you guys actually walked down Talbot Street at night? Like, come on, seriously. I used to walk with my wife and my dog down Talbot Street. We can't do that anymore. There's needles everywhere. There's drug addicts asking us for money, cigarettes. My wife got asked for a joint on Talbot Street by some random. Like, we don't smoke drugs, so what are you going to do? Like, if things get out of control, is the city going to step in and say, enough's enough?
Well, we'll certainly have our partner Indwell working with us on it. Yes.
Okay, well, no, nobody in here would walk down Talbot Street at night alone. None of you. This town is an embarrassment.
I'm going to go back online to Doug Butler. Doug, when you can turn your, I'm just going to the next. Doug, when you can unmute yourself, please let me know.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, Doug, go ahead.
Perfect. So Doug Butler, I live at 37 Redan Street, which is just around the corner from the Balaclava School. I guess I would just like to make a couple of comments. One, you know, I've been living here for about 15 years now in this house, in this community, in this neighborhood. I was here when they tore down the church that was beside Balaclava School, a beautiful building that you know, I enjoyed walking past and pointing out to my friends and family if they came to visit me a few years ago. And when I heard that the Balaclava School was going to be preserved by an organization such as Indwell, which has many facilities in many towns and has been operating for a number of years successfully. And that's why many other towns do support them and do work with them to preserve some buildings and or build facilities for their clientele. That they were going to preserve this location and not tear it down. So it would still be part of my community that I could walk past and point out to my friends and family when they visited. That I was very happy.
Thanks, Doug.
It pleased me that this was going to happen. And as much as I can, appreciate some of the concerns that other neighbors are expressing tonight, I myself don't share those same concerns, even though I do live in the neighborhood, and I will be continue to live in the neighborhood, and I will walk down Balaclava many times and not be afraid. I can say that honestly because you can look at the facts. You can look at the facts that we've been housing people in other locations in our city with Indwell as a partner. And if you look at the police statistics that just came out recently, and those statistics point out the fact that our downtown core has less incidences now than it did previously. Like the instances of calls to our police are going down because of the patrols they have, because of the fact that the people are, yes, we still have homeless, but many people do have a roof over their head now, so they're not living on the street. And that's helping. That's helping the downtown core, in my opinion. And the statistics seem to point to that being accurate. And I also like to point out that, we have already people suffering from homelessness in our neighborhood. I mean, I look out my front window almost any day, and I can see the suffering from some of these people that have nowhere else to go except carry their belongings down the street because they don't have anywhere to put them. And so we already have that. And so in my opinion, I'm just going to state that if we can actually provide a home, provide a roof, provide somewhere for them to hold their belongings and have a place to live, I personally feel that that's going to help our community, not hinder it. So as much as I appreciate some of the concerns, I just don't share those concerns myself, as I say, even though I live in this neighborhood. And I just wanted to make that statement because I am someone from this neighborhood, someone that's lived here, someone that expects to continue to live here, and I wanted just to voice my opinion.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight, Doug. Your name and your address, please.
Good evening. My name is David Burton. I'm here representing 1767158 Ontario Inc., representing 18 Balaclava, 9 Alma Street, 11 Alma Street, and 15 Alma Street. I'm here just in regards to the zoning bylaw amendment associated with 20 Balaclava Street.
Yes.
I'm just here to reiterate our written submissions made by Siskins associated with the zoning bylaw.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we did receive that, so thanks. Do we have anyone else outside? I have no more hands on my screen. Councillor Peters.
Thanks very much, Worship. A couple things I just wanted to comment on. As now a 33-year resident living downtown, has downtown St. Thomas changed? Yeah. Is it the same downtown that we all grew up in? No, it's not. And I can assure you, as someone that travels around this province, our downtown is not unique. I spent 2 nights in Toronto last week, and did I feel safe walking out in the streets? No. Do I feel safe walking Talbot Street? Yeah, I walk it every couple nights. And so I enjoy, but at the same time, I think there's a couple points, there's some consistent points that were brought out tonight, and I appreciated Doug Butler's call.
Yes.
Because if there's any way that we can share the information that Chief Roskamp shared with us of the efforts that the community policing presence have done in the downtown core to not turn things 100% around, but it's made significant progress. And, you know, we heard references, well, I don't read the paper, I'm not on social media. I don't know. And we've got a new communications person coming on board. This needs to be part of our community strategy of how we get the information out to the public. The other one that I wanted to make a comment on, and I say this to Indwell and the planner, to get out in front of this one right off the bat, and it is storage on the property. I don't want to see shopping carts and wagons piled here, there, and everywhere. I've seen them on Talbot Street, out in front of the lofts. I've seen them on Queen Street. I'm not talking about the inn, but I'm talking about 2 Indwell sites. And I know that they built storage on Queen Street. And your staff hopefully move things along. It doesn't appear to stay for a long period of time, but please get out in front of, make sure you've got proper storage. I heard you're going to have indoor storage for bikes. Get out in front of that one now, because I recognize that they're possessions of individuals and they're very important to them. We need to manage their possessions and individuals in the community who may not be fans of loaded over shopping carts and wagons.
Great. Good message to get out. Do we have anyone else with comments? Anybody else from council? I have no one else online. Do we have anybody else in public?
Just say something without having to walk all the way down there. I have a bad day. What I'm not hearing addressed, and it has been brought up over and over again, is the impact to our neighborhood, our homes, our property values, our taxes. None of that is being addressed. You know, there's young people that have moved to the neighborhood that are horrified now because they're saying, how am I ever going to sell my house? I never would have moved here if I had known that with my young family. Why are you not addressing that?
Well, I'll just try my best. I think we are, by using a great Christian charity like Indwell to help us with the project, and certainly in looking at different areas of Southern Ontario where Indwell has built properties like this. It has not been the type of effect you're talking about on a neighborhood. It has been the removal of street homelessness in those neighborhoods, which has driven property values up. I can't speak for every project Indwell's ever done. I can speak for my visits to Queen Street or my visits to the lofts. And the young lad over at the lofts who's always out there every day policing the neighborhood and picking up the litter, and even down as far as cigarette butts. Some of the people that we're trying to work with here from a homelessness point of view are so pleased to be housed that they become your best neighbors. And I'm hoping that's exactly what happens in the Balaclava neighborhood. I'll let Indwell help me with the answer.
I thank you, Your Worship. This isn't the first time we've heard this concern from neighbors in many communities that we work in. So we actually did a study for our Hamilton projects. We have a range of buildings there, some that are existing apartment buildings that we bought and took over the ownership of, as well as new developments. And we studied the property values within a 2-kilometer radius. And I, forgiving the time stamp we did on that, I think up to 5 years. And there was no impact to the property values. All the values around our projects went up. We wouldn't say that we are the cause of that, obviously, but there was definitely no negative impacts on property values. Also, our buildings are quite beautiful and win lots of awards and design awards, architectural, heritage preservation, urban design. So this will not be an eyesore on the neighborhood. And I do appreciate your comment, Councillor Peters, and we will take that seriously. The way our buildings look and are managed, and the property and the maintenance of that, what it looks like from the outside is really important to us, and we'll reiterate that to our staff.
Okay, thank you. Do I have any other comments or I have no more online. Do I have any more from council? Yes, I'd rather we didn't get into yelling them off the balcony, but go ahead.
Why wasn't the residents asked first? Like, this is the.
Why doesn't what?
Why would we ask when the property was in the process of being sold? What our deal for us would have been?
Well, we immediately had an open house. I'll tell you how fast. Sold by who? The school board? Well, almost immediately upon us purchasing it from the school board, we moved forward with an open house with Indwell. I mean, this was not a long period of time between this council deciding to purchase the property and move forward. It was. Well, this is about zoning. So yeah, this meeting is about the amount of parking spots and the shape of buildings and the heights of buildings. So we're now moving to that point, but it's. Okay. Well, that's why we're having a zoning meeting. If you're requesting the height not to be as high, you've brought that to attention of planning. It doesn't come back to the city to vote on the zoning change for a short period of time anyway, but we've heard you tonight, so. But we asked in the middle of the zoning part of this about shadow studies and traffic studies and parking studies, and we've gotten the answers that this council would look for in that case. Well, you've said it 3 times, and each time I've said, no, there's still further to go. And then we talked about, I'm sorry, Steve, you brought up planning standards. The site plan agreements still have to go forward. So no, it's in no way a done deal. I'll let Mr. Pompili answer the rest of that question.
Yep, through you, your worship, the go forward from this point is staff have been recording the questions, the comments that have been submitted by residents here in person, online, and we will be providing a follow-up report that summarizes the questions and responses as best we can to council at a future meeting, and also bring forward a bylaw for consideration.
Right.
There will also be a public site plan meeting as well.
Okay, Councillor Peters, then Councillor Kohler.
Thanks, Worship. And to Lou, just hold tight. You know, we heard it again tonight, and it's been just different public meetings. And it is, yeah, the clerk read out, we notified people within 150 meters. You know, somehow somebody at 37 Redan, who I'm sure is well beyond 150 meters, found out about it. But the old ways of putting the ad in the Times Journal, so few people read it anymore. And, you know, so I don't know whether we need to think about when we're giving the notice of a couple visits to houses and getting something in the mailbox. I don't know. I'd love to hear a little more about it. That's not, it's more of a general comment,
Not so much for this one.
not pertaining, but it's
council
come
has
up
to- yeah.
and I've heard it in other ones.
Yeah, and I agree with you. We need to find in this day of modern technology that's supposed to reach everybody, a way of reaching the people who wouldn't otherwise be reached by the Times Journal or another way of notification.
Yeah.
So I agree with that.
Yes, through your worship, those are valid points, and we, you know, we go to great efforts to do notice, and we can definitely improve our ways of giving notice. For the open house, they were actually hand delivered to properties in and around the neighborhood. We still heard from residents that live there that they didn't receive them, unfortunately, but it gets difficult when it comes to the mail outs as well too, because not every property is an owner occupied property as well. So maybe the owners haven't passed the information on to the residents. We try to use social media as best we can, signage when we can. There are various mechanisms. We do need to expand it out, but I think the word of mouth of this one certainly got the word out. But we can do better and we'll strive to continue to do better.
Right. Okay, Councillor Kohler, then Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Your Worship. The communication piece was one, and I know we're trying to use every avenue that we currently have. Maybe we just need to expand the route, but it doesn't make sense because some people got it and then people with inside didn't get it. So I'm not sure if that was just maybe somebody else in the household got it. But I was just wondering if somebody could clarify where the new build is going, because I heard people say that it's going to block their view and they live on Balaclava. My understanding was it was going to be
on the
back and behind, and the people on Balaclava will currently still be looking at the school. So I'm just wondering if you could clarify that.
Through Your Worship, the new addition is basically going to replace the location of where the existing gym is
Gymnasium.
adjacent to the Balaclava School. And it will be higher than the gym itself, but not higher than the existing Balaclava School.
So I'm sorry that she just left, but the lady that said that her site's going to be blocked, she's still going to be looking at the Balaclava Street School.
But I believe she's on Alma though. No? Okay. Okay. All right. I'll go with yours. Councillor Clark?
Just one theme tonight was worry about the neighborhood and security. And so I just want to ensure them that the community policing, and we've made that part of the loop. And so that the site will be not only the private security, but our local police will be providing the usual services there. And the other comment she's left, but it is a done deal. I mean, we own the property, we sold the property to Indwell, so none of that is changing tonight.
It has to pass the certain zoning pieces. of the
Exactly.
property.
So I just wanted to clarify that she was right in the sense that it is a done deal.
Right. Lou?
Through Your Worship, just a comment on that. The done deal part is just the land transaction is the only done deal part. There's still this process of going through Planning Act approvals. So that's this meeting, this public site plan meeting. There was a heritage meeting as well. And those meetings are designed to get information that help inform council's decision and help inform the applicant too in terms of their operation. And we saw evidence of that at the heritage meeting. I believe there were some suggestions made about materials and some of the siting of the building. So that information helped inform that decision. So the done deal part is only the land transaction. There's still ways to have some involvement and participation in this. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, but I think some people thought that they could come tonight and shut it down and that we would move it to another neighborhood or whatever. So I just wanted them to know that, walking away from this, that the project's going through on that site. It's just, as you described, a number of changes the details will be worked out.
And Councillor Clark, I'll guarantee you as a member of the Police Service Board, this has already been well discussed, including our community policing, now including the Balaclava site. So we'll get there too. I have one more hand up online now, so I think I'll go to it. Amanda Costa, if you have a second question and it hasn't already been covered, we'd love to have you on.
Thank you. I appreciate that, your worship and council. I just had a quick question with regards to kind of the ETA of the project then. Since, it would likely be proceeding, what would we be looking at? And maybe this is a little too early, but what would we be looking at in terms of timeline for the completion of this project?
Can somebody help us with a timeline? I'm not going to hold you to a date, and I don't think the neighborhood would either. Okay,
No.
so noon on the 25th. No, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay,
Yeah.
through Your Worship. Yeah, please don't hold us to these. These are our aspirations. If council votes in favor of the rezoning tonight, we will, we've submitted our site plan application and we'll be working through that with staff as well as our building permit. And we hope to do that over the next couple months over the summer and be looking to start construction in the fall. And we don't have an exact timing on the construction, but 18 months is what you can expect once we get a shovel in the ground.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think we'll make a zoning decision tonight, but we're making a decision to move forward with housing. So great. I think I have some more to read. Let's do this. Do any of the council members or public have any further questions? And everybody's been given a fair opportunity to express their views, and if there are no further questions, please be advised that any person wishing further information on the actions of council regarding the passing of this bylaw for the proposed amendment should email customer service at customerservice@stthomas.ca and provide their name and address. Those who do not have access to a computer and wish to be notified should call customer service at 519-631-1680, extension 0, and provide the same information. This meeting is now concluded.